Drafting a defense in fantasy football isn't as easy as you may think. While on paper, it might sound smart to just draft the best defense available, the defense that you believe is the best. The problem with that is that matchups are super important in fantasy football. And while you might love the Jets defense, the Jets are going up against the 49ers in week 1 in a potentially very high scoring matchup. So what we are going to be doing is searching for defenses to draft that have matchups that are favorable for the defense in week number 1. And some of these defenses also have favorable matchups in week number 2. And then every single week after this, we are going to be dropping videos telling you guys which defenses to pick up every single week to help you get that leg up on your opponent. Before we get on into this video, though, I would like to ask, if you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. While you're down there, make sure you guys leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. So without further ado, let's hit in to 5 must-draft defenses to dominate in week number 1 of the 2024 fantasy football season. We begin with the first defense to draft to dominate in week number 1, and that is the Seattle Seahawks versus the Denver Broncos at home in Seattle. Aggregate ADP from ESPN, Sleeper, NFL, and RT Sports have the Seattle Seahawks as defense number 20 at pick 214, so you should be able to get the Seattle Seahawks with the last pick of your draft. Head coach Sean Payton of the Denver Broncos has officially named Bo Nix as the starting quarterback for the team, which should be shocking to absolutely nobody, because in reality, we all knew deep down that the team wasn't going to roll out Jarrett Stidham or the MILF Hunter Zach Wilson in week number 1 as the starting quarterback. Now, something that we have talked about all of the time on this channel over the years is streaming defenses up against rookie quarterbacks early on in the year. While maybe Bo Nix ends up being a very talented NFL quarterback, maybe he ends up being the franchise guy for the Denver Broncos, maybe even goes out and has a fantastic rookie season, the odds are in week number 1, in Seattle with the 12th man, he is going to be flustered. He is going to be nervous. So something you guys will notice as we make more of these defenses videos as the weeks go on. I make a video every single week on which defenses to pick up off your waiver wire and to stream. We are going to be targeting these rookie quarterbacks early and often. The Seahawks are currently 4.5-point favorites via FanDuel Sportsbook, and the Broncos rank 3rd lowest in terms of implied point total, tied with the Carolina Panthers. While I do not believe that the Seattle Seahawks have one of the most elite defenses in the NFL, and they are far from the legion of boom, and we ain't talking about the Costco guys, we're talking about Richard Sherman, Bobby Wagner, and friends. At the bare minimum, they should be mid. They should be a mid defense this season, which is good enough up against a rookie quarterback who has overwhelmingly pretty mid weapons around him. Week 2, we can actually keep rocking with the Seattle Seahawks as they play up against the New England Patriots. Week 2 in New England. I think the fact that this game is in Seattle also makes me even more confident in the Seattle Seahawks in week number 1 defensively. I think they're going to rock Bo Nix in this game. At number 2, we move to the New Orleans Saints versus the Carolina Panthers. The Saints defense, aggregate ADP defense number 13 at pick 182. The Panthers have the 2nd lowest implied point total on the week with 18 and are 4.5-point dogs up against the Saints. This game has the lowest over-under on the week 1 slate with 40.5 points. Now, last season, Bryce Young looked like a steaming pile of dog shit. You could smell it through the screen. He was cooking up a terrible meal. He was awful. Laughably bad. While CJ Stroud was dropping his nuts on the forehead of defenses, Bryce Young looked nothing like that. But I actually believe that this season, with the new coaching changes around Bryce Young, with the addition of Deontay Johnson, the addition of Xavier Legette, the addition of Jonathan Brooks, I actually think that the Panthers are going to bounce back this season, and Bryce Young isn't going to look like a complete and utter schlub. But coming out the gate, coming out the jump, I feel like the Saints defense should easily be able to handle the Panthers offensively. I could really see this game being incredibly boring, a straight up snooze fest of an NFC South matchup where the game ends like 14-7 or maybe 14-13 and the Panthers lose because they miss an extra point or something. Honestly, this feels like the worst game on paper, in my opinion. Now, you never really know when it comes to division rivalry matchups, right? Because I've just shat all over this matchup. Maybe this ends up being that Chiefs-Rams primetime game of Jared Goff versus Patrick Mahomes from primetime a couple of years ago. But honestly, I feel like this matchup is going to be a straight-up snooze fest. The Saints move on in week number 2 to go up against the Cowboys in Jerry's World. So we definitely won't be touching them in that matchup, and we'll be looking for a new defense in week number 2 to stream again. There'll be videos every single week on which defenses to pick up off of the waiver wire. At number 3, we got the Cincinnati Bengals versus the New England Patriots. Aggregate ADP defense 17 at pick 192. Now, currently, as I'm recording this video, heading on into Friday, heading on into the weekend, the Patriots are undecided on who their starting quarterback is. Could be Jarrett Stidham, could be Drake May. Could be Milton, I guess, Joe Milton, but that's probably not going to be the case. Now, head coach Gerard Mayo of the Patriots has stated by next Monday, which is August 26th, that they will have an answer on who the starting quarterback will be. Some of you will be watching this after the decision has already been made. Some of you will be watching when the video comes out before the decision has been made. Now, to me, regardless of who the starter is, whether it's Brissett or Drake May, I will still be all over the Bengals defense. To me, though, it does kind of feel like a 50-50 competition. I looked up Drake May versus Jacoby Brissett. There was one article that says it's Drake May, another article that said it was Jacoby Brissett, both published within a couple of hours of each other. So it seems like the beat reporters, the news surrounding the Patriots are pretty 50-50 on this. The Bengals are favored by 9 in this game. I expect the Bengals to whoop on the New England Patriots in this game, both offensively and defensively. And the Patriots only have an implied point total of 16.75 in this game, which ranks dead last. I also don't really see May potentially being the starter over Jacoby if that was the projection, or vice versa, moving the line in a crazy way. So whoever ends up being the starting quarterback, I don't think magically if Drake May's in the game, they're projecting the Patriots to now score 20 plus points. Match this all up with the fact that the Patriots offensive line is very suspect. We should see the Bengals defense smack around the Patriots like how Hakeem Rahman hit Lennox Lewis back in 2001. So I am ecstatic about the Bengals defense going up against the Patriots. What you shouldn't be ecstatic about, though, is in week number 2, the Bengals defense that I love this week has to travel to Kansas City. That game reeks of a shootout, so you definitely want a new defense in week number 2. At number 4, we got the Chicago Bears versus the Tennessee Titans. Aggregate ADP defense 12 at pick 180. Now, the Chicago Bears have, in my opinion, a very, very good defense. And I am a big fan of the moves that the Titans made in the offseason to surround Will Levis with guys that will be able to push him to be the best quarterback he could be. While the guy seems a little bit absurd with his love for Mayo, I really do think Will Levis could end up being a very competent quarterback at the NFL level. But it's kind of the same thing that we talked about with Bryce Young. While I like the moves being made around him, I love the new coaching staff, the addition of Calvin Ridley. I understand they lost Derrick Henry, but they bring in Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears, which should be a fine duo. And I think they will end up all fine and dandy this season. Maybe even a sneaky good team that will really be able to help develop Will Levis. But if I'm being honest with you guys, in week number 1, up against the Bears defense, I don't really see a way where Will Levis goes out there and swanton bombs the Bears defense, hits the Bears with some sweet chin music. Shout out to Shawn Michaels. I think that the Bears defense is going to be a big problem in this game for Will Levis. And the Titans are going to be potentially without DeAndre Hopkins. And even if DeAndre Hopkins does end up playing in this game, they're not going to have the 100% version of him. Maybe he rushes to come back. He's not fully there. I really think the Bears, me, feel like kind of a top 12 defense in the league, at least on paper. Now, we always talk about defenses and how few injuries can change everything, and my opinion on a defense in week 17 is going to be way different than in week number 1, but entering into the season on a blank slate, I really do think that the Bears have a top 12 defense. The Titans are tied for the 4th lowest implied point total on the week, tied with the New York Jumbo Jets and Aaron Rodgers going up against the 49ers, and the Titans are 4.5-point dogs. In week number 2, the Chicago Bears travel to Houston. So while I think maybe things might be a little bit more interesting, Bears versus Texans at home in Chicago, traveling to Houston might prove to be a very bad matchup for the Bears. I wouldn't even start the fucking Bears defense if the game was in Chicago. So either way, you don't want anything to do with this defense in week number 2. You're going to drop them like it's hot, like that Snoop Dogg song. Moving to defense number 5 that you want to be drafting so that you can dominate 50 Shades of Grey style in week number 1. We got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going up against the left hands up. Who are we? The Commanders. Aggregate ADP defense 14 at pick 185. But before we break down the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense, then we skedaddle our way out of here, I would like to give you guys a quick word for our friends and our sponsor over at Underdog Fantasy. Now, if you're new to Underdog Fantasy and click on the link in the video description or use promo code Notorious, you'll receive bonus cash of up to $1,000 as well as a special pick like Lamar Jackson in week 1, higher than half of a yard. If you don't know what Underdog Fantasy is, they are the best place to draft best ball teams this summer. If you don't know what best ball is, it's the best part about fantasy football, and that's it. There's no trades, no waivers, no in-season management. At the end of every single week, Underdog will automatically put the highest scores into your lineup for you. Their main tournament, Best Ball Mania 5, $25 to enter, $1.5 million to first place. They're also going to be dropping contests with lower entry fees all summer long. So make sure, if you've got that draft itch, to draft over on Underdog Fantasy, promo code Notorious, or click on the link in the video description. So the Bucs versus the Commanders. A big focal point of this video, which we talked about off the rip, is focusing in on these rookie quarterbacks. I love Jaden Stormy Daniels. I love his rushing upside. I love what I saw at LSU. Go Tigers. But what I will tell you is the books are normally right, and they have the Commanders ranked 3rd worst in terms of implied point total, tied with the Broncos with 19, and the Washington Commanders are 3.5-point dogs in this game. Commanders' offense in terms of weapons, outside of Brian Thomas and Terry McLaurin, pretty questionable. They have the carcass of Austin Eckler, who was running like he had just every single weight tied to him. He was running like he was stuck in quicksand, running at the speed that old people engage in sexual contact. So besides Brian Robinson and besides Terry McLaurin, it's looking suspect. I'm a big Ben Sinnott truther. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like Ben Sinnott, first game of his rookie year, is going to slap up the Buccaneers defense. I just really don't see that happening, especially now that they've got rid of Jahan Dotson. Like Luke McCaffrey, the Nepo baby, is going to be out there playing some serious time. It just feels like in week number 1, despite the Buccaneers defense maybe even being the worst defense we've talked about in today's video, I think this is a matchup that we want to be taking advantage of. In week number 2, the Buccaneers travel to Detroit. So the second this game ends, you don't even need to think about it like, oh, maybe I could play them up against the Lions. Like, unless the Lions plane fucking collapses on the way back home from the first game, knock on wood, we don't refer injuries. Obviously, that's a joke. You don't want anything to do with the Buccaneers defense. So the Buccaneers, week 1, very nice. I like week 2 up against the Lions. No bueno. So again, the best team to draft for week 1 is the Seahawks, because they also got that solid matchup in week number 2 up against the Patriots. Then we got the Saints versus the Panthers, a NFC South rivalry. The Bengals versus the Patriots. Obviously, we're hunting down the shitty Patriots. At number 4, we got the Bears versus the Titans. Solid defense versus a pretty mid offense. And then we got the Buccaneers versus the Commanders, hunting those rookie quarterbacks. Thank you guys all so much for watching today's video. Let me know down below in the comment section what you guys think, and maybe some other defenses that you guys might be looking to target. Let me also know down below, some of you guys may have already drafted, if you're going to cut the defense you drafted and add one of these teams. I love you guys all so much. I hope you did end up enjoying today's video. Make sure you check out one of the videos on your screen if you haven't seen them already. There's 2 videos every single day up until the kickoff of the season, and then most days during the season, 2 videos every single day. I love you guys all so much. Thank you guys again for 33,000 subscribers. Couldn't do any of this without all of you. Let's keep chucking all the way to 40,000 subscribers. Again, check out one of the videos on your screen if you haven't seen them already. Have a great one. As always, good boy.